Get reaction to these developments with the president of the National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, which is the custodian of the Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, Rosheda Muller. Rosheda, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. There's so much to discuss here, right? There's the announcement, for instance, by the president that we heard in KZN that work is being done to look at the regulation of the sale of food at schools. Is that a satisfactory action and response that we're hearing from the president, and certainly the urgency of it as well?
Yes, good morning to all viewers and good morning to you, Naledi. You know, it is such a sad story that this is coming up now. As you know, the go-go selling food at the schools is an old age custom. We never had it in the past that these things are happening. And I think what's happening now is a wake-up call for government.
And what do you think that wake-up call is saying?
The wake-up call is saying there must be much better regulations. There must be more partnerships between school governing bodies, government, and the informal sector themselves. We have been calling for partnerships for so long. Remember, the informal traders do not have enough resources. So we are dependent on government to hold our hands. But definitely it needs to be done with immediate well, although it's going to take time, because you must know who are the people that's selling at the schools, who are the old go-go's and the unemployed that's sitting up there at the schools, inside or outside the grounds, that's earning a living. They are there because there is no employment for them. But they need to be educated. They need to be informed of health conditions. There needs to be regulations. There needs to be more health inspection done on the products they are selling. And I'd like to talk about the products while I'm listening to the questions that you're asking.
I'd love to hear it, because what we heard this week as well, and now we talk about provincial government, but the Gauteng Department of Education essentially instructing all schools to suspend the sale of food. This is within the school and also in the surrounds of the school. And this is where the vendors that you're talking about are mentioned. And they say, and I want to read from it, it says, any individual or business selling food to learners must comply with Regulation 638 of 22 June 2018. I had to go look it up myself. And I thought to myself, well, how many people actually know the regulation on food hygiene, right? So you can talk about the products, but if that education is necessary and what it needs to look like.
Yes. Absolutely. Please bear in mind, you know, a vendor is someone that ekes out a survival. So they don't know about the rules and regulations unless they are informed. So who should be participating? The school, and the vendor, and the government. So the products that is currently being sold around the country, we need to look at the origin of those products. Because we see now that it's these products that our people are selling on the ground, but they are not aware that it has poisonous effects in that. So definitely deep search into the warehousing or the manufacturers of the products that our vendors are selling at the schools. That is most important, because that is where the crisis is lying.
Yeah, and that is the point I wanted to get to next, actually, because what this Regulation 638 on food safety of 2018 says, and it talks about monitoring and testing surfaces and equipment for harmful bacteria. That, of course, is speaking to some of the issues that have been raised around carbonates that have been found in food, pesticides in and around where people are working. That's this first one. The second one is ensuring that raw materials and ingredients are safe and not contaminated. For the most part, if you're selling food, you may not know where the raw materials come from, right? And it speaks to then government needing to look at warehouses, correct?
Absolutely. And who knows whether those warehouses, you know, have their annual or quarterly cleanup of the pests and that. So these pests could also be infecting the raw materials. So there has to be a real jack up from government side on the inspection of health goods manufactured. I think that is where the real issue is lying, because innocently our vendors are buying to sell, to make a living, and they are caught in this humdrum now. Now, our General Secretary is from Polokwane, Limpopo, and they too last week had the same thing, but they had a march. Sanko and Lisha, our provincial structure, they had meetings with the department, and the very next day, the gogos were back at their stalls, and it was lifted, but with a serious contract of safety and security. But I do think education is really needed to be done by our government and the agencies.
Yeah, the president has talked about this proclamation to regulate Spaza shops having been approved. And I wanted to focus on that because what you've got also is communities that say, well, the stores that are selling us some of these toxic products are coming and are owned by foreign nationals. And here's the problem, is that how many of our Spaza shops are actually registered, regulated, and given a framework to operate in? And does that then deal with the concerns that are being raised by communities?
Absolutely. Now, you know, when we talk about the Spaza shops, we know for a fact that it has been taken over definitely by the non-South Africans for now. And we were fast asleep while that was growing. Not that if they are legal and they're registered, we have no problem. We have no problem with that. But they have to confirm to the regulations and the health certificates. Now, if I have a home in a township and I lease my garage out to one of them, and I don't even check, are you regulated to sell? Do you have the certificate? Do you have everything that should be in order? And this is where we need to look at. So it is important that there's a big partnership between national movements like ourselves, and there are others, and with government as well as the Department of Education and Health.
Yeah. You know, I want to talk about protecting the informal economy, and if... and perhaps this isn't even a conversation about just the past few months or the past few years, but certainly about the 3 decades of our democratic dispensation, if we've given enough attention to the informal economy and trying to assist it to get into a formalized way of work. I'm thinking about just the contribution, for instance, to our GDP, massive when it looks at the informal economy. What's it creating? Close to 2.5 million jobs in the country, and perhaps you could clarify what those numbers are. So talk to us about the importance of protecting it, and then what that should have looked like from 1994 up until now.
Absolutely. I think it's only because we nationalized our organizations that we are getting a hearing and acknowledgement. So it is important for government to note that we are a very important sector, as you have said, our contributions to the GDP. But it's beyond that. Government cannot provide jobs. We, as the informal sector, are creating entrepreneurs and jobs, but we must get more support in our infrastructure, our enabling environment, a conducive areas of trade. These things are not there yet. Well, it's starting, but definitely not across the country. We still have very many issues and challenges. Even as latest on Monday, we have kiosks being demolished by the city of Cape Town because there was no proper consultation. They're putting out long-standing legal traders, and illegal traders are just emerging everywhere. There has to be some form, a system that has the regulation and the database of each and every informal trader. And we as NITASA, we extend our hand to work with government and any department that will help with the empowerment and the development of our informal sector.
Well, as you extend that hand, I really hope that you'll come back and give us details as to what's come out of some of those engagements. Rosheda, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That was President of the National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, Rosheda Muller.